Broadcasting live from Humpty Dumpty Sat on a Wall. This is Pop Culture Reference, your one-stop reference for all things pop culture. I'm one of your hosts, Garrett Strother.
And I'm one of your other hosts, rips off incredibly realistic mask, Seamus Connolly.
What? I thought I was doing it with a guest this week, Seamus.
You thought Sean was back, but no, it's that everybody can totally see me ripping off my mask right now.
It was so realistic. I couldn't believe it.
I've got my little voice chip changer.
I was gonna say you had to have yourself read whatever the little lines that you have to say to get the voice chip.
There was a lot of red LED light scanners involved. That's all I gotta say.
Well, long time coming. Like we said last week, something that we have been anticipating doing since we started this podcast. We are finally covering the Mission Impossible franchise in anticipation for Dead Reckoning Part 1 coming out next week. But before we get into that very important mission, Seamus, why don't we do some news?
Let's get into it, man. We've got just a little bit of news today, but... you know, unsurprisingly, we have a little bit of Disney danger, Garrett. Can you hear? Are your ears sore yet? We've been having one of these every damn week this time around. It's not letting up.
Well, the Disney danger last week was Dial of Destiny, I think. But...
That's the Disneyest danger of them all, the Dial of Destiny.
But this is a pretty short one, but it is... probably the most egregious thing Disney has done thus far, which is saying something. They have removed the Disney Plus original film Crater from Disney Plus after only releasing it on May 12th, 2023.
I can't believe that. I had to, double check that you wrote down the right date, because that is insane. I would ask you if you have seen this, but you probably didn't even get the chance to, because it's here and gone so fast.
I guess I was theoretically... I saw the ads for it. It looked cute. You know, it looked like a kid's movie. It's got Kid Cudi's in it.
Yeah, Kid Cudi's there. That's fun. I like him and stuff. He was in Bill and Ted 3.
The little girl that plays the young version of every little girl on everything from Ghostbusters and Malignant and Captain Marvel.
Oh, sure.
She's also on Young Sheldon, I think, a show that is definitely real and people watch.
It's on its own. Is it even on a streaming service, or do they keep that monstrosity on
Plus,
cable?
I'm sure.
Oh, I no thank you. But I don't know, man. No thank you to this weird decision. Like, how bad could it have been? Like, what is the deal here? It just came out. It looks like it got fine reviews. It's not like people hated it.
You know that it's not about quality. For any of these companies,
it's
not about quality. It's about, did enough people watch it in the first 7 weeks? Okay? No? Arbitrary number that we decided was not enough? Let's toss it and never... better to have nobody ever see it and get it and we get a tax write-off than maybe word of mouth picks up and people actually... get a chance to see it. I don't know. It's just
so sad. It's like the Netflix thing, but way more rapid and more jarring. Netflix will do that with things that have just been stagnating on the service for a long time, and then just wipe the record. But this came out a couple months ago. This is crazy.
I feel like this should just go into the public domain. I'm like, why are we reliant on this kind of stuff? If they're saying this has no economic value, then we should be able to see it free of charge.
I think that's actually a great take right there. They're just vaulting things that make no sense to be vaulted. There's no rhyme or reason. There's so many people that worked so hard on that. There looks like a lot of there's a lot of younger actors, a lot of kid actors in this, and they're probably just oh, so I guess my whole contribution to something this major for a corporation like Disney just means jack, and now no one will ever see it, even if they genuinely want to for whatever reason. I feel like this is just gonna get buried now that nobody can even search for it on the only platform that it would be available.
It's criminal. It's awful.
We need to have some Disney-busting laws go into place, specifically. I like the idea. Just make things that are being taken down, assassinated by money reasons by the corporations that created them. Just make them available somehow, somewhere. Let them, do their weird tax sheets and do this, but there should at least be some way to access the things that they're doing it to.
Disney won't let go of the Dial of Destiny because they're afraid we'll go get Teddy Roosevelt to trust bust him.
Exactly. He's gonna kick some ass. There's got to be something we could do.
Speaking of vaulting things and kicking ass, I'm making a face. Let's go ahead and move on to this week's main segment, Mission Impossible 1 through 6.
Woo, let's do it. For today's main segment, we are talking about all 6 current Mission Impossible movies in preparation for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. It's a lot to cover today for sure, but and I'm a fairly new Mission Impossible fan. I'm a diehard fan though. I know I only started watching these maybe a year ago or less, yeah. Maybe but I've swiftly jumped on the hype train that Tom Cruise is running on the top of that train, and I'm really excited to get into this stuff with you, man.
I have been waiting for years to be able to share Mission Impossible with specifically you, but also anyone. Honestly, it's always been, my family has always been into Mission Impossible. We like the Mission Impossible movies, but I do think it's kind of an undersung franchise, and finally, in the wake of Top Gun being one of the biggest movies of all time, I think it's about to get its due a little bit more. But
Oh yeah.
I've loved these since I was a kid. I used to have one of my personal videotapes that I had that was mine, that we talk about that on this show sometimes.
Oh, for sure.
The first Brian De Palma Mission Impossible. Then, like the rest of the world, I saw Ghost Protocol in the theater, which was really the rebirth of the franchise. And I have not missed one in the theater since Ghost Protocol. So, very excited for Dead Reckoning. Very excited for you to come fully informed into Dead Reckoning. I love these movies. I think they might be my favorite franchise outside of Star Wars, probably. And even in some ways, I like it more than Star Wars. As an adult, I certainly like it more than Star Wars. Star Wars just has a special place in
of
my
course
heart.
That's the classic, but this is coming out with regular bangers every couple years at this point. And I mean, most people would think that Dead Reckoning Part 1 would be my first theater going experience with this franchise, but so many years ago when Rogue Nation came out, 2015 was that? It must have been. Just being bored enough on a summer day with my buddies to be like, let's go see this random Mission Impossible movie, having never seen any of the other ones, any of us. And our attitude was, we're just going to pretend it's the new Terminator movie. All these agents that are coming after Tom Cruise that have helmets on the motorcycles, they're just Terminators. They're coming after this man, and he's very capable, and there's going to be gadgets. And so pretty much every single thing was a surprise to me, being that late into the franchise and knowing nothing anyway. But I mean, it was truly like watching it new with you when we were rewatching them to just kind of get caught up.
Mission Impossible is also a franchise that's very much old-fashioned and very much for adults, in that for most of their run, there has been no real expectation of you having seen another Mission Impossible movie. Sure, you'll get more out of them probably if you did see the last few, but Mission Impossible 3, I remember that movie coming out and being a really big deal, and all the adults were like, saw a new Mission Impossible, it's really good, don't take the kids. They're like, we didn't see the other ones, and they're like, it doesn't matter. It's just its own thing,
Oh man, to think about being an early franchise person, trying to keep up with them as they were coming out from 1, it would be such tonal whiplash and such a strange thing to be a diehard fan of back then, I feel like. But then 3 and beyond, you're pretty locked in, I feel like, at that point. If you've gone through that, you're in the green zone there with Ethan Hunt.
I also feel like there's a reason they switched after 3 to subtitles. They go Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, Fallout. It's not Mission Impossible 5, right? It's Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. It's more approachable. It's easier to just be like, it's a impossible mission. I'll go see that. Tom Cruise will hang off a plane probably. That's what I hear.
Yeah, that's the genius of this, I feel like. That even though I never followed this franchise really as a fan, or even saw more than one of them in the middle of the entire franchise, I would hear about these stunts and I would just be like, you know what? That's actually almost enough reason for me to... I wasn't aware at the time of how epic they truly were, but I heard about him all the time, and it was very tantalizing to know that he was just like jumping into the sun or whatever, like launching himself into the bottom of the ocean and never coming back. Like, he's crazy, and that's a really big draw, I feel like, for a lot of people going into these later ones.
It's also wild to me that I genuinely think, and we'll get into this more in spoilers, that pretty much all of them are good except for one notable exception. And, when it comes to breaking down these movies individually, there's a lot to mind, but as a franchise...
Hold on, man. Hold on. Hold on. Someone's knocking on my door. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Weird. Just a package waiting at the door for... Oh, it's actually addressed to the show.
The pop culture reference?
Yeah, it's addressed to the pop culture reference. Hold on.
Oh, that's weird.
Good morning, Mr. Connolly and Mr. Strother. In 1996, a film adaptation of the hit 1960s television series Mission Impossible was released. In the past 27 years, the film franchise has amassed 6 entries, with a 7th, Dead Reckoning Part 1, releasing next week. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to cover the first 6 Mission Impossible movies on this week's episode. Due to the delicate timing of a standard podcast, a countdown timer will allow you only 6 minutes to discuss each individual entry. If you or any member of your podcast team is muted or disconnected, the secretary will disavow any knowledge of your actions. This message will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
Well, okay. All right. Full spoilers for Mission Impossible 1, I guess. Here we go, man. We've accepted the mission. What do you think? This is maybe the weirdest Tom Cruise movie I've ever seen, and that's saying a lot. It just feels so old and different than what I'm used to epic Tom Cruise doing.
I'm a big Brian De Palma fan, and I think that, for me, Mission Impossible, and it's only partially because I grew up with this one, is one of the top entries in the series, because it's so paranoid and violent and dark in a way that the franchise... I mean, 3 a little bit, but mostly the franchise never gets to this point again. And it's interesting because it starts as, like, a Mission Impossible movie, and it's fun, and we've got the team full of colorful characters, and Emilio Estevez is here, and don't you love him?
Emilio Estevez.
Hasta lasagna, don't get any lasagna.
The best. Dude, I can't tell you how hard... I mean, you were looking at me when we were rewatching, or you were rewatching them, me watching it for the first time. I remember looking over to you when everyone just starts getting absolutely shredded, and you were just like, yeah... You thought this was the movie, didn't you? Yeah, everybody did. But, like, also you were, like, sad for me because Emilio Estevez gets stabbed in the face. That's so graphic.
Kristen Scott Thomas, too, I think would have been a really great person to have on the franchise, keeping on.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, she's a loss, and Jon Voight, I don't know, did you buy Jon Voight being dead the first time you watched this?
I mean, yeah, dude, I had no idea how many masks. Like, even in the first one, which isn't, like, a ton of masks, but it's like, I didn't realize that was so on the table that we were just going for it, you know? So, I was of the idea that this was a Jason Bourne caliber universe where, like, you just kind of have guns and bombs and tasers and stuff sometimes, but no, we're like masks and drones and, you know, hacking into the mainframe. I mean, it's insane.
This one is really the most grounded Mission Impossible. It's the Casino Royale of Mission Impossible.
That's actually a pretty good comparison, I feel like, because it's... I mean, it is great. I kind of started this by saying that I find it weird, but it's just because I'm so used to the real human Terminator Tom Cruise. And this is like, he's so young, and he's such a chipper young agent. He's not yet, like, Superman Ethan Hunt yet. It's so strange.
He feels like he's right out of the Marines or wherever Ethan was
before
he was in the IMF. And I think that's it's a really great place to start his character as,
Mm.
He's this young, cocky idealist, but not really an idealist, but,
I mean, a little bit. He gives Jim the benefit of the doubt for so long until, I mean, that is such a good moment, too, where he's piecing it together in his own mind while he's having the conversation with him, and that's another thing that I was unaware of in this movie, like how, or this franchise rather, of how they like reveal big crazy stuff like that, and how it's still like, even when it's a big crazy reveal, it's still under the espionage, like everybody's got to keep some kind of secret style way of doing that. It's really unique and amazing, I feel like.
I think that Henry Czerny, who plays Kittredge, is really the unsung hero of this movie.
Great.
Because not only is he good in his own right, and he's got that great voice, and he's actually, he's the first briefing, right?
Yeah.
He gives Jim the first briefing, but he does so much to sell Hunt as this worthy adversary, and it's kind of a thankless role, really, to be the government stooge.
Yeah.
But he's like, we have to get this guy. He's so dangerous when he's in the wind. And that intensity sets up the tone for the rest of Ethan Hunt in these movies as, like, sure, he might go rogue, the IMF might turn on him, but once he has his eyes locked on something, he is going to see it through. That mission is going to get accomplished.
Like, it's even just thinking about the big heist break-in, CIA vault break-in idea. Like, it's so, the iconography of him in the black clothes and like on the wires right up against the floor and like holding his arms and legs out. But you think about how that is the starting point for like the big stakes in this franchise, and it's kind of insane, especially in the high intensity way that they do it. We haven't even talked about Luther yet. I want to make that clear that we have not talked about Luther yet, and how just the building intensity of like the sweat beads going down his face, and you like hearing Luther's voice in the radio of like, we've got, however much time. It's truly incredible. And I mean, we're gonna talk about the ebbs and flows of this whole franchise, but I feel like in rewatching that first one for this episode today, I was on the edge of my seat, man. It feels like an impossible mission, and it feels like nothing is impossible for Ethan Hunt when he does that kind of thing.
The Langley heist is a great example of, less being more, and De Palma, he doesn't use the iconic Mission Impossible music over that scene. He makes it silent.
Well, hold on. Our next mission is about to commence. All right, moving right along to John Woo's Mission Impossible 2.
Boy, is it John Woo's Mission Impossible 2.
Ooh, man, it's more a John Woo movie than a Mission Impossible movie, to be honest. It is wild. It is wild.
And it's sad how much those two things don't go together, because
it's just not his style, It's just not.
Because the John Woo stuff in this movie is great. The Mission Impossible stuff in this movie is not good, and in fact, boring. All of the espionage, all of the spy stuff, all of the plot, the romance is boring. No knocking Tandy Newton. I think she's a great actor.
She is lovely in this, but it's just I don't know, when they're doing the whole like, can I be on top bit where they meet each other for the first time, and he literally does like a bounce, go wow wow, like bass line when they're in the bathtub. It's so weird.
It feels like John Woo thought he was making a James Bond movie and not a Mission Impossible movie.
I guess, but also it doesn't feel anything like James Bond either. It just feels he feels like a different character, that Ethan Hunt in this one. That long hair got to him, It's very weird.
And to be fair, this is the genesis of a lot of important things for the franchise. It's the genesis of, hey, we're going to bring in a new director every movie and have them do their version of what a Mission Impossible movie is. It establishes the fact that every movie we're going to have somebody do the big wire flying squirrel jump thing, which he does in this movie. You know, there are some good aspects to this insane, boring movie. I like the motorcycle. That's a really big...
the motorcycle fight at the end?
Essentially, this is the one that introduces Ethan rides a motorcycle. And almost every movie after this, Ethan rides a motorcycle.
That is very true. And I mean, not only does he ride, it's not like it's like, oh, Ethan is introduced to the concept. It's like he's a master at motorcycle riding in this. And he's jousting them and he's drifting in them. And he's like getting off the seat and like sliding on the soles of his boots. It's insane. He is an acrobat on that thing. And I mean, that's all him doing that. I imagine, I'm pretty sure, at least most of it. He loves the shot of the cameras right in front of the motorcycle as it's going as fast. It's redlining, going so fast. That long hair, I will say, was great for the motorcycle riding stuff. Because Ethan Hunt's not wearing a helmet.
That's the next thing I was going to bring up. Is it not only establishes that Ethan's hair length fluctuates, this might be the best hair he has in any of the movies. It is great looking.
It's really good, man. I mean, let's not skimp on our free solo Ethan Hunt rock climbing intro where he's just like long sweaty hair in the Utah sun and he's like wedging his knee into the crevice to like shake his hands out. He looks badass, dude.
I think that this movie has a great intro. The entire bit of him free climbing, and then he gets to the top of the mountain, and a helicopter shoots a rocket with a canister with sunglasses.
Kid sunglasses.
That then plays like a guitar version of the Mission Impossible theme as he gets his mission briefing, and then as the title card comes up, he throws the sunglasses directly at the camera as they explode.
If I told you where I was, it wouldn't be a vacation. It's like gets right into it. Ooh, it's so pretty good. I would argue right after that, the stuff where the bad guy, whose name I swear to God I remember.
It's the worst villain in this franchise, and that's saying something because there's
some bad ones. I know,
some not great villains, yeah.
But some of the most peak Mission Impossible stuff in this movie is we get 2 fake outs because this villain is like Ethan's specific body double for like mask stuff. So he does a couple mask fake outs. I think him in the plane at the beginning before they like blow it up, like terrorist attack it in Colorado. Is great, where you think, like, what is Ethan doing? Like, what the hell is happening? For a second, you're like, okay, yeah, he's doing IMF stuff, sure. But, you know, I think that's some pretty peak mask pulling right there.
2 things I also want to make sure we mention are, one, this also establishes that Luther comes back for more missions, which is really important.
Luther is pulling a lot of weight in this movie, dude, for a lot of enjoyment of this movie, for sure.
And then also the real stunt that Tom Cruise did, which is, I think this is really the genesis of Tom Cruise is going to put himself in danger for entertainment. The knife that is like a 1/4 inch away from his open eyeball.
Was that not I mean, I guess even if it was some kind of prop knife, that is stabbing into his eyeball, so.
No, it's a real knife on a rope that they dropped. So it landed exactly where it lands, right in front of his eyeball.
Don't remember learning. You probably told me that at some point, but that is the most. That is all the small stunts that he does are so overlooked because he's jumping into the Grand Canyon and stuff these days. But like, that's crazy. No one would ever do that. And I know John Woo was super like shaky about the rock climbing stuff too, because he did. I think there was some wires or some. I know that the big jump was a stunt double.
I don't think,
But like even that alone, even with never mind. No, we gotta move on.
Mission Impossible 3. I think a lot of people don't like this one, and I think it's really good.
Who doesn't like this one? This one is awesome. It's going off the rails. I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman alone is one of the best villains in this entire franchise, I feel like, or at least the most memorable, one of the most memorable.
I think that he's probably the best villain performance, without a doubt.
Because he's Philip Seymour Hoffman, and watching him go from, like, calculated cold to, like, yelling is actually scary. It's insane.
I think the scariest scene in this movie, and I know we're jumping the gun a lot, is...
Hey, man, we got 5 minutes. Keep going.
When they're on the plane, and he's like, if you have a girlfriend or something,
dude,
I'm gonna find her, and I'm gonna hurt her. I'm gonna hurt her so bad. And, like,
he's
he's so
your
casual
name.
about it.
It's like it's a day at the office for him. It's so, like, he's like, listen, I know I'm, like, this, like, super villain style man, but this is boring to me. I don't want to have to go mutilate your girlfriend, Ethan Hunt, but I'm gonna do it because I am evil and angry at you. You knocked me out in the bathroom. Did that coughing bit, which was great, where you can't talk until the voice modulator is loaded. I mean, it's crazy. And I mean, going all the way to the end where they have Ethan's wife. He has Ethan's wife, and he's like, I told her I was going to do all this. I'm going to actually kill her in front of you, though, because I'm that angry about it. He's like a Kingpin-style brute in that fight, by the way. He's, like, kicking Ethan in the chest through windows, and it feels like he's so much stronger than he lets on. He's a very fancy kind of guy, but then he lets loose.
There's so much to talk about in this one, I feel like, because J.J. Abrams, who is a director that I have a complicated relationship with, but I think that this movie, his first movie ever, I should add, that he got definitely because he was so good at Alias, because he basically just turns this into, what if Alias were a 2-hour-long Mission Impossible movie? So he gives Ethan a family, which is, I think, an interesting angle to come at it as. What if Ethan, had settled down and had a wife, and that becomes really important for not only Ethan's character, but continuously through the rest of the franchise, we see the ramifications of this specific event in Ethan's life. And the idea that he's also making... This is the first Mission Impossible where he brings it back a little bit from... Like, John Woo went gadget crazy, mask crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And J.J. Abrams found the really good equilibrium where the franchise still lives between hyper-technical, which Brian De Palma's more interested in, and crazy banana pants spy stuff that John Woo is into. And I think Abrams does a really good job. This is by far the darkest Mission Impossible movie, just in terms of its violence, I would say.
Yeah, I think so. It is, like, the stuff with, like, the little tiny nano brain blaster bomb.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild to see. Like, it's very grotesque in its concept, but, like, there's also things like just, like, blowing out people's knees with a gun, like, as they're tied to a chair. It's kind of wild. It's also kind of wild that the entire intro of that movie it jumps into the middle of that interrogation and then comes back to it. I think that is an awesome choice.
It's so intense because you're like, I'm gonna go have fun at the movies. Mission
Nope.
Impossible, Tom
like,
Cruise,
I
wow.
loved John Woo's Mission Impossible 2. Let's go see Mission Impossible 3. And it is not that, dude. They are going crazy.
They are really going crazy. And there's a lot of great little moments. The bridge chase where there's the drone and they're breaking him out of prison with the cool, like, foam that makes the
like,
side of the truck bridle.
Shatters it with, like, a hammer. Yeah, that is awesome. I love the helicopter chase through a wind farm and, like, dodging giant windmill blades. Like, that's awesome. That's a cool concept.
John Rhys Meyers, who's piloting that helicopter, is a good addition to the team. He's no Benji, but I like him.
He's okay.
The real standout, other than Luther, of course, in this movie.
Shout out to Luther.
I think Maggie Q is great, and I really wish that they would bring her back for another one.
I wish they would too. I think that would be really fun to see. She gets shot for this team. She should get her. She should get her dues. She should come back.
Yeah, definitely. And
hell, bring back the Australian guy from 2 while you're at it.
We didn't even talk about it. You've got the Vatican. That whole break-in. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall.
Of course.
Obviously.
There's so much. Good lord. We don't know what the rabbit's foot is still, right? Like, not really.
No, not really. Lawrence Fishburne's like, stick around and I'll tell you. And then I will never come back, even though he should also be back.
He should 100% be back. Dude, I have such high hopes for these Dead Reckoning movies. Everyone's coming back, dude.
If Kittredge can come back,
Exactly. Honestly, if there weren't, the circumstances of Philip Seymour Hoffman's actual real-life death, they don't kill that character in a way that is very Mission Impossible convincing to me. I feel like they could have done more with him if the circumstances were different.
Yeah. I like Billy Crudup a lot in this movie. I'm not a huge Billy Crudup fan, but when he hits, he hits.
really does,
and
though.
I think he's really good in this.
Absolutely. I was definitely a big fan. And then we get like, at the end of this movie, Ethan Hunt lives happily ever after, you know? Nothing bad ever happens to Ethan ever again, and he stays
Jeremy
with
Renner
the woman.
would specifically never let anything
Dude,
bad happen
Jeremy
to Ethan.
Renner would never let Tom Cruise down, and we know that for a fact. We know that about him. And, you know, I maybe we'll get into that someday. Who knows?
Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, The Comeback Kid.
It's kind of crazy. Like so far this is also like 4 for 4 in a row that are like, oh, did you like the last Mission Impossible's tone and like framing and everything? It's like, well, buckle up. Like, too bad, we're going crazier again.
What if Mission Impossible were Buster Keaton? That's what this is, I think.
Dude, that's actually, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is Jeremy Renner's intro, I believe, right? This is climbing on the sides of buildings.
Yes, well, he's not climbing on the sides of buildings.
No,
He's
of
sitting
course
in a car with Tom Wilkinson going, well, from the sketch on your hand, I can tell you that this international terrorist who is the worst villain in the franchise.
Oh my goodness. What is even the name of this guy again?
Jeremy Renner or the bad guy?
The bad guy.
Oh, Hendrix, right?
I think so. Yeah.
That one of them's got a Hendrix, and I think it's this one.
Dude, it's
Kurt Hendrix.
Kurt Hendrix. I mean, what? And then this is also Leah Seydoux, right? Is in
also great. I think she's a really cool,
totally rad, and part of one of the most fun, like, undercover, like, really espionage-y things, like the double meetup swap of everyone is pretending that there's someone else and everyone is trying to catch on to it in the big building. I think it's so much fun, and I'm glad that she's involved for that one, for sure.
I agree. And she's also one of the only crossovers between this and Bond, which I think is kind of an interesting...
Oh, yeah. Wow. I guess that there are pretty minimal... Well, we got Jeremy Renner here, which is the Bourne crossover, too. We got 2 for 1 true. Up in here. We just need... Is there even a fourth one? Do we have a fourth one?
Don't know. It's crazy how they were like, we're going to bring in Jeremy Renner from Bourne, and we're going to bring in... this was like his moment to be the replacement Tom Cruise, and then Tom Cruise climbed the tallest building in the world, and everybody went, never mind.
He said, psych, sorry, Jer. We're not doing it that way. No dice.
Because Luther, least amount of Luther in this one. That is one of the only strikes against this movie.
Very much so, yeah.
Even though I think that helps raise the stakes a little bit of like, you think you're on one mission, but everything just keeps going wrong. Brad Bird is really good at constantly escalating the stakes of this movie while also keeping it fun and breezy with his trademark playfulness, and also, like, I think this is one of the funniest, if not the funniest, Mission Impossible movie.
I mean, there's some... Humpty Dumpty's Head and All is pretty funny. That was, like, immediately after the, like, fake Italian arguing delivery men bit, which is really funny, too, but... I mean, this movie, it's starting to find the actual place where Ethan Hunt will be for the next foreseeable whatever. I mean, I know it gets... The epicness ebbs and flows a little later on that we'll get to in a bit, but I think it's great that, you know, it's finding that humor while still making it the most epic thing you've ever seen at the time. And this was 2011.
This is
right?
2011, and
it feels so new. It doesn't like movies from 2011 feel old, but this movie does not feel old to me.
This is also the movie where he perfects the, you know, just another day at the office look that he does sometimes. When the guy pulls the goggles out of his coat when he's getting patted down. And he's like, oh, just another day at the office. I have my goggles. Guess that worked. Haha.
Oh, man. And then we also wrestle with Jeremy Renner's conscience for this entire movie as well, which I think was a really interesting way to keep what happened in 3... like meaningful for Ethan and others, but like
Agreed.
Still showing like, hey, he's out here. He's with Luther and the boys out in the field. I mean, maybe not as much Luther in this one, but again, he's out with the boys. You know, he has to go save the world every couple years, and you know, you can't have a nice pretty wife who's not also a spy.
It's a very nice, touching moment at the end. I think that this one ends really strong with your missions, accept them with the 3 iPhones. I think that's a great little moment. We didn't even mention Benji's a full field agent now.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Paula Patton, similar to Maggie Q in the last movie. I think actually even more than Maggie Q in the last movie. Great addition to this franchise. Wish she would come back.
There are so many people that they could pull back in the future. Now that we know that Dead Reckoning Part 2 is not the end, whatever the future may hold, like, give me spin-offs galore. Mission Impossible presents blank, Luther, like, give me anything. I'll take it, man.
They blow up the Kremlin. We haven't even talked about them blowing up the Kremlin. That's like the Kremlin. First thing they do in this movie.
And Alec Baldwin is here, isn't he? Isn't he the CIA director?
I'm
sorry. I'm jumping ahead. I've got like a little more time.
I will say, I have never really wanted an article of clothing more in my life than when I was 13 years old. This movie came out, and Tom Cruise wears a leather jacket with a hood.
Oh, dude, the leather jacket with the hood. Even on the poster for a movie I had no intention of seeing, I was like, damn, I gotta find me a leather jacket with a hood. He looks so bad. Again, before, like, the only Tom Cruise movie I'd ever seen was, like, the original Top Gun, where he's not really a badass. He's just kind of a snarky dork. But I was like, holy, I guess Tom Cruise is a badass, and he's pulling off this hood for some reason.
Yeah, this is a great movie. It's a turning point for the franchise.
And the turning point shall continue in the next one, starting right now. This is Mission Impossible 5 Ghost Nation Rogue Protocol. Hold on. Rogue Nation. It's
funny you say that. Rogue Nation was actually a working title for Ghost Protocol, so they just carried it over.
Is that true?
This one. Yeah.
So I'm not that wrong mixing up all this stuff. They do have a similar vibe, I feel like, but this one is the one that I saw a bajillion years ago. It's got the breath-holding diving sequence, which I think is awesome. It starts with the plane stunt, which is something I didn't remember until the rewatch here, which is awesome. Another Benji in the field moment. He's in like the ghillie suit or whatever. I love it.
There were 3 James Bond movies specifically that came out in 2015. Yeah. And we finally have covered them all on the podcast, because there was an actual James Bond movie, Spectre. There was Kingsman: The Secret Service, and then there was Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation, and this is the best James Bond movie that came out that year, I think.
It's awesome. It's so cool. It's more globetrotting. It's more stunting on him. More Luther is back in the fold a little more in this one.
Luther's so great in this one.
Thank God he's back.
You brought up Alec Baldwin. This is the one where, because this is where we get bearded, really excommunicated, the most rogue he's ever been, Ethan Hunt. The entire IMF is shut down. Jeremy Renner is being a bureaucrat. Benji's playing Halo at his desk.
Yeah,
Luther's just keeping his head down. And Ethan is off tracking the Syndicate, which was teased at the end of Ghost Protocol. And they do such a good job of building up over the course of this movie, because this movie doesn't really get going in earnest till the opera sequence. And I think that is actually my favorite action set piece in the entire franchise. It's Hitchcockian. It is incredible.
Yeah, I am a huge... I mean, the opera sequence is iconic for a reason, man. And I think... I'm trying to remember the name of that short. It was my rec center. The Key to Reserva. That was my rec center all those weeks back when we were watching those, because those two live in my mind simultaneously at this point. And my God, I'm honestly just Solomon Lane as a bad boy. He's a bad boy, man. He's killing folks. I love that sequence where they compromise. It's pretty close to the beginning when he realizes that the safe house he's in is compromised, and he gets gassed, and Solomon Lane is personally killing that lady. She didn't do anything, man. She's just an IMF agent.
Tali Lintra from The Last Jedi, who also gets unceremoniously killed.
Who is she in The Last Jedi?
She's Tali Lintra is the name of the character in The Last Jedi. She's the A-Wing pilot that gets blown up in the hangar when Poe is we gotta go fight the First Order.
BB-8, keep up with me in this hallway. And then, dude, that's so sad. That's her niche is getting killed and people being like, "Oh, I wish she did something." Like
she's
not having
great
anything.
and instantly likable in both of those things, so she's doing a good job. Speaking of great and instantly likable, this is the introduction of Ilsa Faust, who
Hell
is
yeah.
the true equal to Ethan Hunt on the team. She's not even really part of the IMF, she's just on the team.
Yeah.
And they're like, you never know where her allegiances fully lie. Rebecca Ferguson is so great in this. Again, speaking of the opera sequence, fantastic use of her there.
So good.
Chris McQuarrie, this is the first one that he did. It's crazy how the first 4 Mission Impossible movies were all different directors with different distinct styles, and now Christopher McQuarrie is going to do 5 through 8 at the very least. Probably if they go on after that, they'll do more. With
certainly he's gonna stick around. I feel like there's no one else that'll like just sign Tom Cruise's death warrant as easily as he will. I'm just like, I know you can do. If you fall and this parachute doesn't open, you're just gonna make a crater in the ground, Tom, and you'll walk out of it. You'll be fine. Like, here we go.
Well, they are true collaborators. He and Cruise, I think, are. They mesh really well, and Cruise is like, this is my guy, and I'm gonna keep him around because he's my guy. He did a rewrite on 4 uncredited, and then also he works on things like, Edge of Tomorrow and Top Gun Maverick. So McQuarrie is always around, but this is the first time that he has stepped back into the director's chair, and it's with Cruise, and he's doing a fantastic job, I think, stepping into this franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of this one. It's definitely towards the top of my, like, if I were gonna, pick my top, it would probably, in no particular order, it would probably be 3 Fallout and this one. I think those really, really get me for their each individual, things that they do. But this one, I mean, even just kill it. Like, I know Ethan has also died and come back at least a handful of times at this point in the franchise, but him not remembering his own drowning and resuscitation is pretty damn funny every time. And I know that is like part of the trailer or whatever, and maybe that's why it sticks with me so much, but it makes me laugh.
It's one of the only times you get to see Ethan truly, like, not in control and
yeah,
just being kind of a buffoon.
Exactly.
But he's also, crashing cars and driving super... This is some of the most impressive motorcycle work in the whole franchise.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That is another thing I remember specifically. The motorcycles are pumped up, and we gotta move on. Next mission.
And finally, we get to Mission Impossible Fallout. The pièce de résistance of the entire franchise. I really do think that Fallout is the greatest of them, because it is not only probably objectively the greatest action movie of the 21st century, but it is, in addition to that, a sequel to every single other Mission Impossible movie that came before it, a franchise that is famously kind of singular and individual. It's not very serialized until this movie.
Yeah, this was an absolute delight. When I finally got around to this one, because when it came out, the only thing I heard was like, this movie is incredible. Like, for the people who don't even give a damn about Mission Impossible or whatever, they were just like, this movie is the movie of the year. And I'm sad that I didn't get to see it in IMAX in theaters. I would have loved to have understood just how much of an opus this movie is, because it's epic, it's funny, like you said, it's a sequel to everything, and it doesn't feel like a cheap kind of, like, hey, do you remember this? Hey, do you remember that? It's like really expertly written to make the things that are coming to fruition from different movies feel important, and not just like we gotta make sure everybody remembers they're watching Mission Impossible, because we know, we watched it, we know this is Mission Impossible to the maximum, and it's still very satisfying the way they fold in these other characters and concepts.
It's taking every signature element of the franchise and truly turning it up to 11. The opening of this movie is exciting and shocking, and also has the longest of any of the mission briefings. That thing is so crazy.
It's pretty long. They're really laying it out there for him.
But they do a microcosm that mirrors the opening of the first Mission Impossible, and I think that's kind of a statement, a thesis that the whole movie does, where they take down the walls and they've tricked the guy into giving them the information they need, and they are the IMF.
Oh,
and
man.
Bum. And from there, you only get more and more kind of integrated to, hey, we know we do a motorcycle chase a lot of the time. What if it was the craziest motorcycle chase you've ever seen in a movie through the streets of Paris, where he's going through the roundabout, around the Arc de Triomphe, backwards.
The wrong way into
traffic.
oncoming traffic is insane. And the fact you reminded me when we rewatched this together for this episode that they straight up, like, there's nothing fake about that shot. They shut down traffic and did that for real in Paris. So all of that motorcycle stuff is in those streets. It's crazy.
He runs across the rooftops of London, out the side of St. Paul's Cathedral. He breaks his ankle for real.
Oh,
he
dude.
flies a helicopter for real. He climbs up the payload on a helicopter.
Insane.
Mostly for real. Like, he's actually doing it.
He's out there,
obviously.
but
yeah,
he's out there. That's crazy. Yeah. He's just, like, dangling off of cliffs and doing all these motorcycle stunts and...
Halo jumping.
Yeah, the Halo
times.
jump. I was going to say, that's the most insane thing. And I know we see so much behind-the-scenes footage now of just Tom Cruise falling through the air. Again, it almost seems like it's old news, but it's so good. With the addition of Henry Cavill at his side through so many of these epic moments and the fruition of all this stuff, it's so incredible. It is probably top period. That's like you said before, it is the best one, truly. And
Henry Cavill reloads his arms. They have the really good bathroom fight.
Yes, the fake out
he
with
kills Alec Baldwin.
Oh, Alec Baldwin stabbed to death. Absolutely tragic. After another great mask fake out with punished Solomon Lane, like crazy beard, straight jacket Solomon Lane.
Breaking Lane out of prison. Vanessa Kirby is the White Widow. There's so much packed in this movie. We cannot... Like, 6 minutes is... we could do an entire episode about this movie and still not talk about everything we want to talk about.
Yeah, and I honestly, we will probably come back and maybe do a full... maybe a full marathon episode would be crazy now that I'm fully integrated into this franchise. Maybe we do... like a full retrospective when maybe they're coming out with the finale, which would be kind of intense.
Maybe when 8 comes out, when Dead Reckoning Part 2 comes out, maybe we do just Fallout and talk more specifically about Fallout because there's too much to fit.
It's incredible. Like, we were just like, we watched it together yesterday in prep for this. Yep. We were sitting in awe. We had to like pause it multiple times to be like, we need to like digest this, a thing we've already seen in the past because it's so insane to watch happen again. Once we get to like the helicopter chase and you're burning Henry Cavill's face with oil and fist fighting on the wreckage of a helicopter wire suspended on the side of a cliff, it's wild. And then they do the fake out that you think that they nuke the world and that the next movie is going to be way different than you think, but
also, Ethan's wife is back and maybe going to get nuked along with the rest of the world.
Definitely. The nuked with her husband, the game guy from the first Hunger Games, who still has the same... Wes Bentley needs to figure out his facial hair, because he can't keep having... no matter what I see him in, I just keep seeing the weird swirly facial hair that he has in that movie.
He is great. I think it's a really thankless role that he does a lot of really good nuance with in this movie.
Well, that is all she wrote. Garrett Strawther.
Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. That was... We did choose to accept it, and we made it through with so much more to say, I feel like.
It's hard to wrap up all of these in 6 minutes, but I hope that we did the Secretary proud today.
I hope so. Secretary Nat?
Secretary Nat. Yes.
They'll be back, I'm sure, to give us more missions one day.
But why don't we go ahead, kick it on over to our pop culture reference.
Let's do it. For today's pop culture reference, we're going to be talking about how Tom Cruise is able to do all of his own stunts in his movies. During pre-production on Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, director Brad Bird wanted to shoot certain sequences on IMAX cameras in an effort to bring back showmanship to blockbuster releases. The central IMAX set piece would involve Tom Cruise's character Ethan Hunt climbing the outside of Dubai's Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world. Bird's fixation on showmanship combined with Tom Cruise's penchant for adrenaline meant that Cruise intended on doing the stunt himself. There was just one problem. The film's insurance company said no.
An insurance company's goal on a film is simple. Prevent anything that could delay or cancel the production that would cause the insurance company to pay out. And one of the biggest movie stars in the world running across the side of a skyscraper was not within the acceptable margin of risk. Cruise, as one of the film's producers and one of Paramount's biggest stars, did something no other actor in living memory has had the power to do. He fired the film's insurance company, and replaced it with one who would okay the stunt. They shot the sequence with Cruise, and, upon the film's release, the moment not only became one of the most iconic in the franchise, but an instant cultural touchstone credited with revitalizing Cruise's career.
Since this unprecedented move by Cruise to ensure the authenticity of his stunt performances, he has personally clung to the sides of cargo planes, engaged in helicopter piloting dogfight scenes, trained himself to hold his breath for 6 minutes, and countless other on-set stunts with minimal use of CG special effects and stunt doubles. Cruise continues to push the limits of his own stunt performances both in and out of the Mission Impossible franchise, with his upcoming Dead Reckoning centerpiece stunt promising to be the most dangerous he has ever attempted. In his own words, I might add, he himself has been really touting this new stunt, and I mean, is it a little shady for a billionaire movie star to fire an entire insurance company off of his own movie? Maybe. I will say that is maybe a little shady, but man,
I gotta say,
these stunts are good. These stunts are truly breathtaking. They make me speechless a lot of the times, if I'm being honest, just to sit there and think about the idea of, again, the most famous man in Hollywood just putting his life on the line with every single movie he has done since then, pretty much.
When we went to go see Top Gun Maverick last summer, and I got to see the Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning trailer for the first time in IMAX in the movie theater, and you were covering your eyes like a good little boy. I was clinging to your arm, just in awe of what was happening before me, and that's just for the trailer. And also thinking about the fact that if it weren't for this Ghost Protocol stunt, I really do genuinely believe not only would we not be getting Mission Impossible 7, I don't think that we would have ever gotten something like Top Gun Maverick. I think that this truly did bring back Tom Cruise and solidify him as one of the still current, relevant, top movie stars doing it right now.
Yeah, he's always been, like we talked earlier about the early parts of the franchise before this actually took place, but even something as interesting as him riding his own motorcycles and doing his own chase sequences, a lot of physical fight choreography he did himself personally while kind of being in the line of fire, so to speak. But the fact that he is just like, now we're in an era where Tom Cruise is in an actual military fighter jet, and I would probably imagine he knows how to actually dogfight in one of those things for real. That's just the craziest thing of all time to even think about, let alone something like jumping off the top of a mountain with a motorcycle up a ramp and just plummeting however many hundreds of feet down. It's insane to think about.
I'm very excited for next week to actually finally get to see Dead Reckoning Part 1, a movie I've been waiting for. It's been since 2018 when Fallout came out. This is a patient franchise.
Wow, yeah, it really is.
Always worth the wait.
I am so thrilled to finally go see this new one with you, and at least I can rest assured that no matter any quality of any Mission Impossible movie to ever come in the future, it's gonna be damn impressive with the stunts.
I couldn't agree more.
But what do you say we kick it on over and save the rec center?
Let's save it like Tom Cruise saves the world in every Mission Impossible. Save the rec center! Now it's time to save the world, where we bring you our weekly recommendations.
Your rec center, if you choose to accept it.
Seamus, what mission do you have for us this week?
Oh, I actually do have a mission for everyone who listened to and watched The Dial of Destiny for last week's episode. I need everybody to go see Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny in 4DX. And I know I've been ranting to you about this, Garrett, specifically for a week straight, but it is the stupidest thing I've ever done, and I loved every single second of it. It didn't matter that I literally had to take my hat off because it was getting blasted off my head. Didn't matter that my popcorn that I set on the ground literally got shot by an air cannon and spilled all over the aisle. It didn't matter that my seat was jerking so violently that my drink spilled all over the outside of it, so that when I picked it up to take a sip, I got covered in soda. That especially didn't matter because you get sprayed with water in these things, Garrett. I don't know if you know that. You get sprayed with actual water.
It's a 4D movie, yeah. I've been to the Shed Aquarium, Seamus.
I didn't know what I was getting into, but when I got to the theater, you, like, outside of the door to the theater, the 4D theater, there's, like, a menu of stuff you're gonna go through, you're gonna be put through, and it's, like, ticklers and mist and all this stuff. Truly the most unhinged movie-going experience of my life, and I loved it so much. Now, would I have loved it as much if I was seeing Indiana Jones for the first time? Probably not, because it's insanely loud and distracting, and I definitely missed a lot of the stuff that was going on.
Would you go see Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning?
Not
40X?
Not for the first time, but I am almost certainly going to try to implore you to go see it with me a second time so that we can jerk around like Ethan Hunt sprinting as fast as he can. It is truly the weirdest thing of all time. The seats move with the camera movements, not just the characters. You get like punched in the back. Like Indiana Jones punches someone and you get punched in the back by a little piston. It's like the craziest thing ever.
Insane.
Oh my goodness, God! I this is a little bit of a rant at this point, but the honest regret in my heart that I felt leaving that theater that we didn't go do Fast X in 4D after we saw it the first time.
There's always Fast X Part 2.
Dude, every single time a new one comes out at this point, I'm dragging your ass to like a over expensive theme park ride in a Regal somewhere. Because it is crazy.
We can't even use our AMC A-list.
No, we're paying full price for this experience because it is so dumb and so worth it and so fun. So that is my rec center.
Speaking of experiences that are broken,
oh God,
I have finally finished Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and I have been waiting to rec center it until I'm done. I am 2 trophies away from the platinum. I'm on the cusp of greatness, and you know, I'm not going to say that they've completely ironed out all the bugs. There's definitely some screen tearing. There's definitely some, we go into a pre-rendered kill animation and the guy just disappears midway through. But overall, I think that the game is, I would certainly define it as playable. And I would further define it as fun. You and I had Rocky on to talk about Fallen Order and whether or not we thought Jedi Survivor could kind of live up to the promise of Fallen Order, because Fallen Order itself, we agreed on that show, is good, but it could be a lot better. And I think Survivor takes all of those concepts that we were really hoping would be expanded upon in that first game and brings them into their own. I said this to you yesterday, actually. If Fallen Order is what if kind of Uncharted were Star Wars, this is definitely what if God of War 2018 were Star Wars. And that means fleshing out the side characters a lot more, bringing back the characters that you like while also adding in a brand new roster of colorful folks from across the Star Wars universe. That is, they're all fun to meet. The gameplay is a lot more varied and interesting. The enemy types are a lot more varied and interesting. And overall, I think it's just a general improvement from the first one. And I hear that the PC version is still really bad. That they've not really been able to fix that. But I was playing on PS5, and I took a break for a while after it came out and said, I'm going to wait till they patch this so that it's playable. And I don't think it's almost ever hitting the full 60 that it promises. 60 frames per second, that of course. But it's still, I think it still looks very good and plays really well. And I think it is at a point now that I feel comfortable rec-centering it, especially after finishing the main story and almost 100% completing the game.
Well, I am already locked in. Whenever I can get around to my re-platinum of the first one, and, probably by the time that I do finally get around to this game, it'll be even more updated, hopefully, maybe a little more patched up. But it seems like, from what I've been hearing from you and from, just the general populace who've been playing this game since launch, is that it's had such major improvements even just from the day one patch stuff, which everyone had a big problem with. But I saw a little bit of your gameplay yesterday, and it looks so big and wide and interesting, and I definitely cannot wait to follow through on your rec center today.
I'm very glad to hear it, Shams. I'm sure I'll loan you my copy in the coming weeks.
I would thank you very much for that.
But that wraps us up for this week's episode of Pop Culture Reference. If you want to reach the show, you can tweet us at PCR_podcast. Also find us at that handle on Instagram and TikTok. You can email us personally at popculturereferencepod@gmail.com. You can drop off mysterious packages with secret missions in them at Seamus's doorstep. You can engage with the show on YouTube or whatever platform you're listening on right now. It really helps the show out in terms of engagement. And next week, of course, we will be covering Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, my most anticipated movie of the year. I hope it lives up to the hype, and I'm very excited to talk about it with you, Seamus.
I have never been more thrilled to come to a premiere of an action movie that is so far into the franchise, but this is truly going to be an event, and I am so excited to get into it with you next week.
Everybody, we'll see you on our next mission.
Hasta lasagna, don't get any on ya.